Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Indus Chronicle Debates. We have on this program today Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan and Shahzad Shah Jilani. We will not be having Jagdish Ahuja today, and hopefully one more panelist would soon be online. And today, what we are focusing is COVID-19, but besides all that issue, Pakistan has a lot of political issues at the moment, and in these issues, 18th Amendment is the issue which is being talked about very vigorously. We have two views, and people are saying that since the federal government needs money, and that's because of the reason 18th Amendment may be, witnessing or undergoing some kind of a change there. Today, we will talk to Jamil Ahmed Khan from these two respects also, but also we will have a benefit of him being in Canada at the moment, and also he had been in the US, where what the situation is there. We would like Jamil Ahmed Khan to know all about there, because in America people are saying some kind of a situation like Pakistan was there, where states and Trump were not in good terms in terms of lockdown, in terms of their economy. Jamil Saab, thank you so much joining us, Sheraz Jilani. You and me
Thank
are
you.
here, and
Yep.
we must be missing Jagdish Ahuja also. Let's
Yes,
begin
indeed.
with Ambassador Jamil. Uh, uh, what was the situation there in the US? Jamil Saab, you were there, and despite the fact you are not new there, but this situation was definitely new, and we heard many things, And in this program, we talked about the changes that people are talking about, that this world would be changed, and during all those discussions, some people are claiming that America would not be the number one country in the world. It would not be, able to maintain that strength that it is having at the moment, the before that COVID-19 situation. Please share with us what the people are talking about these changes there, and how Americans are looking COVID. And there are many things that people are talking about. Some conspiracies, like that was a Chinese virus, and Americans are almost sure. I mean, one part of Americans are sure that that was something which was made in laboratory.
These the concepts and these perceptions and these skepticisms are already persisting there in the New York or in the U.S. I was very closely located in New York from the UN headquarters, so it was really quite chaotic and very scary for everyone. And I also locked myself down once it started. But the kind of situation which I monitored there, along with so many other people, that scores of people, scores of dead bodies in the cold storage trucks were lying outside the hospital. Initially, it was so chaotic that people would not even, the administration would not even know what to do and how to really remove them, segregate them, send them to their respective religious locations where they could be, the religious virtues could be performed. So that was one. And second was the hospital staff was totally flabbergasted to start with, until they start getting some more ventilators and some more the PPE and other protective equipment. So that kind of a situation. And then you also, in your intro, you also mentioned about certain aspects which falls in the domain of the geopolitical situation of the United States. And then you also mentioned about the perception and the conception of the conspiracy. That's true. There are some evidence on which we can base our opinion, and we can form our opinion, and we cannot rule out this. I will give you some documentary proof of it. Basically, there are so many other material available on the social media, and you might have monitored it yourself. There are statements after the statements from various leaders, from various researchers. But I'll give you something which is a record of the Congress and the White House. On the 24th of January 19, a bill was passed in United States. The name of that bill was Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act, known as CARES. And there were $2.2 billion bill was passed. And the name, as you know, no one had heard about Corona at that time, but that was the name, Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act. And under that, this bill was passed on the 24th of January 2009. A bill was presented, as a matter of fact, January 2019. And in July, the second reading, for the second reading, it was sent to Senate, and Senate passed it. And after passing it, it was then sent to White House for the signature of the president. That document and that bill was with the president until 27th of March 2020, once the pandemic was really on its peak almost. I don't know whether it was on the peak or where, but it was in its full bloom, right? So at that time, the bill was passed. So that is one aspect. Besides that, there are other indicators, and these things, what I have just spoken, is available on the Congress record, and it's available on the website of the White House, whitehouse.gov. So therefore, your point of the conspiracy theory, now I think we who are keeping an eye on such things, we cannot rule out this possibility. Initially, we were finding it hard to find a solid ground. Now, second aspect of your question was about the administration and management of it. The management and administration in United States, it is going to cost very heavy to the President of United States, right? And the forthcoming election, people have started analyzing it, including myself, that it would become very hard, very unprecedented, that the second term president would probably be losing. But it's very unprecedented, but it's very hard for Trump now this time to win over. Now, similar situation in Pakistan. There was a confusion in the United States that I used to laugh it out, that the confusion at the top leadership level, and I started finding the same confusion. Forget about one page or two pages, but there is a mechanism, and that mechanism is the consultation with the health care people, the doctors, consultation with the administration, consultation with the strategic planners, and the consultation among the politicians, and the decision is made, right? So in the United States also, they were doing it, but Trump would also have his own style embedded into all the decisions. So therefore, the confusion started, and there were riff-raff.
This was the similarity between Trump and Imran Khan.
Between
the state
and the federal government.
Pretty closer to PTI. I don't know. I should call you a PTI man at the moment or not, but still, you know PTI and Prime Minister Imran Khan. I mean, being a neutral person who knows how to move around in this situation, how do you see Imran Khan's decisions, his statements, and his government's policies? I mean, being in the party is something different, but when you think about all these things, then an independent analyst, I mean, things may be entirely different. What is your point of view?
First of all, I'm basically a professional person. I've done consultancy for Muslim League Noon for a long period of time. I've done consultancy for People's Party, and I've held important position in Muslim League Noon time and during People's Party time. And likewise, I've done some consultancy for the PTI. Number one. Number two, never ever any TV has invited me from the platform of any political party. So that one point. And now you have asked my personal opinion. I can give my personal opinion about all the leadership, including People's Party or the Nawaz League or ANP or MQM or you name any. I can give my opinion. Of course, I'm a citizen of that country and I've really roughed it out at all level of my bureaucratic career. So I can give that opinion. So coming back to the opinion on the Imran Khan leadership, Imran Khan, you have to give him an allowance. Like you have to give an allowance to Nawaz Sharif. You have to give an allowance to Asif Zardari. So you have to give an allowance to Imran Khan also. You have to give an allowance to Nawaz Sharif that he would not have 45 seconds, he would start looking right, left, and center. Right. Likewise, Imran Khan had never had any experience of passing by a government mechanism and government structure or government procedures. Right. So that is a very big handicap for Imran Khan. And secondly, Imran Khan has been a celebrity, a cricketer. So he still has that style of his thinking and his style of his conduct that he would not really go by the consultants, would go by the advices, or would be able to carry out a proper selection of the proper team. So one person never runs the show. Yes, one person at times influence the recommendations and advices of a team, but one person alone can never run the show. See what is happening to Trump there, right? So likewise in Pakistan also, that there is a very, very weak team. One person he was able to bring again, and that is Asad Omar. She is performing, by far is performing all right, right? So far as the central command is concerned. So likewise, if he brings a good team, probably he'll be able to now, he'll be able to even not manage, but barely float around, because things and the situation is becoming very, very critical. It's already become very critical for a country like Pakistan. Now it's not possible for Imran Khan and his team to really be able to have a proper planning and a strategy to float this nation from this storm, from this cyclone, what we have of the virus, this COVID-19. So therefore, it is really very, very hard for his team under this structure. Unless they change the structure within the cabinet, within his team, bring in some more people of the right experience. They are thinking, the government, the present government, PTI government.
You said at this time, when we are talking about, I mean, it's impossible, it's almost impossible for Imran Khan to move ahead. This crisis is bigger, and to deal with this crisis, you need a different and brand new and comprehensive plan. Otherwise, it's very difficult for him to move around. I will go to Dr. Sheraz Rajput, who is also professional, is a younger professional. Dr. Sheraz, what do you think? I mean, Dr. Jamil is saying, where we are standing at the moment, Imran Khan and his government is unable to move ahead unless it has a brand new plan and practical plan, which must be supported by the professionals and professional advice.
Yes, first of all, thank you so very much, Mr. Manzoor Sheikh sir. Yes, I can hear you. Because of the interruption, I was unable to hear the what you asked. So I grabbed the whole idea. So am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, sure. Please go on.
So definitely, Imran Khan does not have right now that team of professionals that we all like hoped for. Everyone in the Pakistan who voted for him. So right now the team is not that professional, and you can see that every now and then he's trying to shuffle the cabinet, putting one minister in place and then removing. That shows like in a very short span of time, if you're changing your team, that means there is something that you should have thought of before. So that shows this. And regarding like taxation, when they went for tax reforms, uh, to me, like the whole nation was not taken in confidence, and they could not manage what they should have very efficiently. So I think like overall, you can see the graph of the PTI came down very quick. That was because of unprofessional approach of all the players that he had in his team. So not very many governments have passed in Pakistan whose popularity have come down to this level in a very short span of time. So definitely lack of professionals. You take some difficult decisions. Definitely the economic situation is not good. The economic conditions that he was given when he joined political office were not but still the nation could have been taken in confidence. But you when you take like difficult measures, unpopular measures,
Shahzad, I'll come to you. I mean, you heard and watched what Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan is saying. I mean, this is a view from a professional and who has a lot of experience, of many countries. Those either turned successful to contain coronavirus there, are those also who are considered to be failed so far. I mean, now uh, government has decided to ease down the lockdown. This situation is there at a time when we have more than 26, 27,000 registered cases of coronavirus, and everybody is saying our number is going higher. We are going to the peak. What do you think uh, in this time when we are easing this lockout? How would this government and the people at large would be facing all those results which are coming out of their decision?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to um, uh, s- extend my greetings from Islamabad to Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan Sahab, who is seven seas away. And I heard him. And we have a new
Thank you.
um, a young PhD
thank you, sir.
from Belgium, Dr. Sheraz Mustafa Rajput.
University of your
Unfortunately,
UK, sir. Sorry.
from UK, sorry, from UK, and now what I gather out of this conversation, um, I think that if we because you and I are regular feature of this live stream, and we have had an extensive discussion on the issues and about what should be done, what are the backgrounds, and we are not going to repeat that again over here. But coming back to your question, I feel that the we are making certain decisions in a haste. We are not really sure about while when we sit together and when we have deliberations, when we claim that we have the stakeholders on board, and we say that the decision came after careful review and consultation with the concerned quarters. But when a decision has been taken, uh, there's always a backlash. There's always someone backtracks. Someone says that we were never taken into account. Someone says that this is not the piece of advice we gave out to the Prime Minister, and hence we see the decision that really are so surprising for the entire nation, and we get to hear it either from the Twitter accounts or the breaking news of the mainstream media, and then we sit and we ponder that what went wrong. And there was this whole discussion going on earlier, like even the starting news of the day we often see or get to watch or hear is that there's a consideration that let's not get things into in a rush. Let's not take certain decisions because it could put under jeopardy the entire process of precautions, preventions, and trying to fight with this pandemic with a wisdom, with a collective wisdom, and the right way and right method, as proposed and suggested by the World Health Organization. Now, this was very alarming and equally surprising to see that the federal government comes up with this decision that from smart lockdown we are transiting into an absolute no lockdown. And whereas there's a lot of talk that certain sectors will remain open and certain sectors will not be functional, and there will be SOPs and etc. etc. But today, just like few hours, like probably 2 hours back, we just heard this news that a restaurant in Islamabad in F7 sector, there have been 21 positive cases reported just from one single restaurant. So just imagine the amount of the cases they are increasing by each passing minute or second. I won't even say a day or hour. I would say even like in each passing minute or second. And now, keeping this part aside just for a moment, I would like to know that world over we have seen whenever the governments take any decision, uh, depending like what kind of crisis there are, they always consult. They always uh, take a piece of advice from the experts of that particular field. Here, our doctors, the Pakistan Medical Association, has outrightly since day one and every other day, they keep repeating and they keep pleading the federal government that please do not lift the or ease out on the lockdown. Rather, there should be strict measures. And today I just heard a little bit of analysis of Dr. Saeed Akhtar, and he just came up with something very new in terms of research and development of this COVID-19 coronavirus. And that is also equally alarming to know that it is no longer restricted to any one particular, when it comes to damaging your organs, your immune system. Now he's come up with this new research, and that he claims that it is not his. It is done by a team of experts, and he is saying that it actually runs through your vascular veins, your blood, and it just have some sort of clotting over there, and that results into dysfunctionality of other body organs. So it is no longer the discussion and debate that whether this coronavirus is airborne or it is in the air, it has some sort of particles in the air, or someone sneezes. It is gone beyond that. It is no longer that discussion. And another
Shahzad,
point I would like to add.
what I'm thinking is going to Ambassador Jamil. This
Yes.
is this is an issue that if you would like to talk about from any respect, there's no any doubt that that is something very dangerous, and you would not find such kind of an attack during the last century. I mean, people are very much sure about it. But the narrative that is coming from the government as a whole, and especially from Imran Khan. I mean, everybody saying, like Shahzad told us, that from doctors to every professional, they are warning. Okay, listen, this is going to be very dangerous, and we will put huge population at risk if we are going to ease out in a time where this number is increasing. We are going to the peak. Ambassador Jamil, what do you think? What is that certain reason or a cause that pushes Imran Khan, Prime Minister Imran Khan, to go to that decision? Do you, do you think anything justifiable there?
Well, if you view it from the scientific point of view and from the total data analysis point of view, there is no justification. And if you compare it with what has been happening in other parts of the world, the in Italy, in Milan, the mayor said it's all just rumors, and the coronavirus would not really affect. It's just to destroy our economy, just to destroy all these things. He started going to the restaurant and started motivating people of Milan, Italy, that it's all hoax. But ultimately, the same place, even the mayor died, he expired with coronavirus, and also Milan had maximum casualties out of corona problem in Milan. So, and likewise Spain first lady, she went for the Women's Day and had a huge convention of the women, and disregarding the mayor, disregarding everyone, disregarding this social distance and the SOPs evolved by WHO. We have seen. I can give you zillions of more examples. But the Trump example you had already given. But my point is, those countries who have not followed the scientific advice, they had a problem. Now, the other dimension of country like ours, there are so many underdeveloped countries. They are in a catch-22 situation. Now, I would just like to make a sweeping statement here for opening for the debates, that if there is a corona, hypothetically speaking, and the hunger, right? Who is going to win? I guess the hunger is going to win. People are going to be on the roadside. Now, the management of the government is to strike a balance of the scientific advice and bring the people into confidence through the respective mechanism what they have, political as well as bureaucratic mechanism, to bring awareness among the people and to make sure that people don't die of hunger. There is a equal distribution of at least surviving items and surviving at least food, what they could get. So that is a very difficult task. Pakistan is structure, particularly the hospitals, the healthcare system in Pakistan, for the last 30, 40 years, there have been 2.4, 2.3, close to 2% of total GDP. All right. So if that is the situation, you'll take quite some time to improve your infrastructure. Number one. Number two, if you match it up with your administrative control and a proper administrative control, then you can bring the things and bring the and strike the balance between the scientific advice and the people, the absolute necessities for survival. So that is, I don't think the structure of the government at this point in time, or at any time, the structure was there in our known history, that particularly last 20, 30 years, that we could face such a pandemic. Now you can't even compare it with the Spanish flu of 1918, because that was in gravity much lesser than what we have, with all the scientific development, with all the research at our hand, with all the hospital facilities at our hand. The entire world is out of resources, right? Except for those countries who have now been able to level it off with their resources and some control, including Canada. So my point is that Pakistan is in catch-22 situation. At this point in time, the leadership needs to have a bottoms-up consultation and top-down consultation. All consultations, everyone is to be consulted, all the organs of the government and the public sectors, they have to be consulted. There are mechanisms in Pakistan. We've been doing it in past. They have to bring that so that people are aware, so that the right stuff and the necessities of the people are provided to them to survive. And within this lockdown, Canada is doing it. Today, Denmark has opened all their. We can't give these examples. Denmark has done so much of efforts, and they had so much of resources that they could open their city. Although Denmark has almost about 560, 460, 70 deaths
Jamil,
in a population of only 50, 57 lakh
has
people. In
Pakistan
our case, it's very alarming.
learned any lesson from those countries who have been successful, to contain this virus? I mean, that is for sure. Everybody is saying, and till today, we are, unable to formulate a coherent kind of a policy. But Shahzad, coming to you, death by coronavirus or death by hunger, I mean, it's a choice. And Ambassador Jamil is talking about striking a balance between these two. Do you think it's possible to strike a balance? Uh, uh, Otherwise, whatever we are taking in a final shape is death by coronavirus or death by hunger. What would be the choice, you think?
With all due respect, with the opinion and views of His Excellency, I would beg to differ here for the reason that we have to make a fair comparison and assessment first. For example, the countries that were mentioned are all the developed world, or probably if not the superpowers, then second to or close to the superpowers, with the excellent health infrastructure, with excellent services, with everything available, less populated. Here in Pakistan, when we are talking about striking a balance between the two, for that we need to actually have a proper understanding of the issue, which unfortunately our Prime Minister or the federal government is not really looking into, not digging deep into it. Why? I'll tell you why. If we are comparing the corona death by corona and death from hunger, so I would actually, the equilibrium can never be the same. We cannot strike a balance between the two for some very obviously reasons, and I will discuss that ahead. Number one, we have a very weak health infrastructure system in Pakistan, and particularly in the rural areas. Number two, whatever we have, Pakistan did not embrace this change. Pakistan, this is something highly unprecedented, something we have never ever witnessed in our lifetime, and we were not really. There was no caution. Like we are working on the Millennium Development Goals. We are working on these Sustainable Development Goals. So we know that there's a particular budget, there's a particular vaccination, and there's a whole work plan that we are signatory to, and all these international organizations, they are talking about it constantly. They are issuing their SOPs, they're issuing their TORs. So this is the first time in our history that we were not prepared about this. Now, the dark side of it is, what is the cost of a ventilator per day? It is approximately like $5,000 a day, approximately, I'm saying, with all the other, boarding, lodging, and everything. So just imagine the magnitude, just imagine the number of cases spreading, and we don't have enough ventilators. We don't have enough space because, this corona pandemic, it is just like dengue. For instance, there are particularly dedicated isolation wards. So the patients who are going to the hospitals, they also prone various kinds of threats to the paramedics, to the doctors, to the health workers, as well as the people around. So just imagine that with a weaker health infrastructure or the system or the services, the number of cases going up. My humble submission would be that this government, when it came into power, and as Dr. Sheraz hinted at in his analysis earlier, that a lot of people had pinned their hopes in this government that it will work wonders, it will just change the system, it will introduce certain reforms, but nothing happened, as we've all witnessed. There was a 100-day plan. There was then that was converted into a 200-day plan, then a year plan, and etc. etc. This government started off with austerity drive. We don't see the austerity drive, or we at least I don't see any austerity going on. All those tall claims just are just down the drain, and nothing practically happened. So why not the federal government or the prime minister? They sit and they assess that what are the priorities. They've set their priorities right. For instance, all these countries that His Excellency mentioned or referred or quoted, um, we have to also carefully look at the spending of their budget. That goes out on what things? That goes out on the infrastructure development, education, health, tourism, etc., social security. Um, Whereas in Pakistan, where we are hardly spending like our 2.3, initially 1.8, 1.9% of the total budget of the GDP on our education or on our health system, and we are spending so much, double or maybe like 20 times more on our defense budget, that there's absolutely no justification when we know that the times are not the same, when we know
Shahzad,
that things have
there is
changed.
no comparison. There is no comparison, and we are talking about Pakistan, but even those countries in this third world, which we believe are pretty stronger in terms of economy, they are also not comparing themselves with,
Exactly.
with Europe. But Dr. Shiraz, I'm coming to you. In this whole situation where you find no unanimity in the policies, there are many things everybody is talking about. We have no central kind of idea in this country. You see Islamabad and you see the opposition parties, they are talking in different directions. In all that situation, what is that 18th amendment is coming from, and what you have been looking at this issue, you think it's only just to get some money for Islamabad, for center, or you find anything else behind all that plot?
In my opinion, first of all, this 18th Amendment issue should not have even been raised, let alone just getting some media coverage and by some ministers, and everyone is talking about this. So every country, a political economic history of every country, like it goes through a certain evolutionary periods, and 18th Amendment is one of the achievements that this country, after Constitution 1973's Constitution, has achieved. So this basically devolution of power is democracy. So I had an opinion, or I had hopes that this country will even move beyond that. Like we will even talk about the devolution of power to districts from provinces. Now we are right now we are backtracking. If we do that, like we are undoing the civilization. And in human history, this is the most irrational concept that any government can go for. For example, like if you say the world has moved ahead of black racist approaches. Now if somebody is talking about going backward and involving in those issues, that will be irrational approach. So 18th Amendment was an achievement, and they should not have done that, even brought that in the spectrum of discussions or narratives in Pakistan. And 18th Amendment is one of the achievements. Having said that, right now, if you see that, as I would like to quote Dr. Asad, I don't remember his name. Like 18th Amendment has done quite a good job for. Recently, I read a report where I read that the provincial poverty at every province has declined fairly after the 18th Amendment. And like a person sitting at the federal or the capital of Pakistan, deciding about my future, living in some village of Pakistan, is not justified in any case. So 18th Amendment is very justified, and they should not even have brought it. Even in terms of corona, after this virus, you can see a clear disconnect between the provincial and the federal government, which has really put the country in jeopardy. Being a citizen, I sometimes think I should go out because everyone else is, the government policies, the federal government policy is different, whereas the sin is imposing effective lockdown. So I think this disconnect should have been should not have even been there, which we have seen. So no matter what policy you enact in Pakistan, if there is a disconnect between provinces and the federation, or between provinces, so that policy would not be effective. You can see that across the globe, the countries have gone with unanimous policy, whether they are going with imposing lockdown or not, whether they are easing lockdown or not. So the holistic approach has been adopted. Whereas in this country, in Pakistan, in our beloved Pakistan, we can see a clear disconnect. So that really has, to me, it should have been effective lockdown, and Sindh did the right thing. I think federal government should have followed it because it's like part of the body. So we all are the part of the body. So I don't know where this came from, that one province is doing something else and the other is doing something else. So 18th Amendment to me right now is for public consumption. I don't know, maybe for diverting the attention from this COVID-19, etc. But or maybe one of the arguments is that because in previous eras, the army used to come directly and help the country putting the house in order. Right now, their presence is there, but they are not active. You can see movements, but in 2005 earthquake, you can see that. 2010 floods, you can see that army was on road, or rangers was on road. So paramilitary forces were on road. So that created a kind of positive image of the army. Right now, you can see that after the 18th Amendment, it is the provincial government which is calling the shots.
The threat we are talking about this time is entirely different. I mean, this virus is a very, very different kind of an attack. Coming to you, Jamil Ahmed Khan, Dr. Sheraz is saying reversal. Reversal is something you are reversing something process. How justified is the reversal of something that we appreciate as a huge achievement in recent history? Number one. Number two, I would like to hear your point of view that when we talk about managing resources, we talk about kind of allocating resources. Do you think it's justified to touch upon those things which create disharmony in the country?
Precisely what you have said is given in the Constitution. Constitution is the trust between the citizen and the state. And the 18th Amendment was basically a very significant demonstration of the trust of the people with the state, and all the parties and all the provinces were really in concurrence with the 18th Amendment. So yes, it is.
Ambassador Jamil's connection is, I think, weakening. Sheraz, I'm coming to you with the same question.
Right. Right. Are you? Can you hear me again?
Yes. Please, sure. Go on, please.
All right. So that's one. And the Constitution, if there is any evolution in the Constitution amendment, there have been so many amendments in all the process, that should be for the good, for the better, right? Yes, there could be some amendment in terms of the spirit which has not been followed. And those people who are dealing with the politics would probably throw more light on it, including my friend Shahzad Jilani Sahab. So basically, the devolution at the district level, go to any district in Pakistan, we can go to our respective places in Sindh, right? And we can find out that the district level has not been empowered, the funds have not been transferred, the local government mechanism is not really functional the way the spirit of the 18th Amendment was. That's one of the components. Other components, Bill Gates, I had a meeting with Bill Gates in UAE, Abu Dhabi. He had come for some assistance to Pakistan in terms of polio. So there was another aspect which came up, which was the health, devolution of health. I would say that the devolution is absolutely perfect thing. All the concurrent departments have been transferred, fine enough. One thing we have to expect that we have not really improved upon after taking over those departments. We have not really took them to the level of proficiency which was required by all the provinces. But again, I give an allowance to the provinces that all of a sudden such a huge change, it had a teething problem and it takes some time to stabilize. So that's one. So in short, the conclusion is, because I have to come to the other point and dilate upon some more points on my previous deliberation also. So basically the conclusion is that we have to maintain the trust of the people of Pakistan. That's only possible if all the 4 provinces and Gilgit-Baltistan, they repose their confidence in what is going on. Certainly, the 18th Amendment topic at this point should not have been really raised. This was not the time. We are passing through the most complicated time of the history of mankind, and of course, Pakistan's first time that we are facing such challenges. Coming back to my previous deliberation, yes, my point has further been endorsed by my friend Shahzad Jilani, right? And that is basically why Denmark example, Milan example. I told you about the devastation in Milan. I told you about devastation in Spain. I told you about devastation in New York. I can tell you the devastation in Denmark, where 446, 47 people died in a population of only 57 lakh people, which is much higher than what we have in Pakistan. But here is the debate. And the debate is, how many of us can endorse that the statistics we have is time-tested and it is reliable? The statistics, the collection process of the statistics, the reliability of the statistics, the cases, corona cases, to me, 26,000, no. It has to be 4 times more than that. All the analytics, they pointed out towards that. At least I, as a researcher, cannot base my argument on the statistics provided by the government functionaries or by the government, right? Because of the ground reality. That is one aspect. Now, the second aspect is, we obviously cannot compare ourselves with the developed countries where social security system is in place. Why I said if the corona and the hunger is face to face, who wins? It's anybody's guess. Mark my word, my friend Mazur Sheikh, mark my word. If we do the curfew lockdown, and from the scientific point of view, I totally endorse a full lockdown. And I appreciated on various channels the initiative taken by Sindh to start with. Various channels I appreciated that was based on scientific advice. Now, is it sustainable? And if it's not sustainable, do we let the people die on the roadside? No. Is it sustainable? No. Then what to do? That's why I said it's catch-22. Now the point is, I mentioned to you, there are governments, they have imposed their very tight administrative arrangement. We can't take the example of Wuhan. China has a different resources. We cannot take the example of Singapore. They have a different resources. We have our own problems, as Mr. Shahzad Jilani has pointed it out, right? As I also compared Congo with Pakistan, where we have 2%, about 2% of the budget. How can we can't compare it with the countries where they have 15% and 20% budgets of on.
But let's talk about on this issue from yet another aspect. I mean, Shahzad, before coming to you, I'm going to Dr. Sheraz, then I'll come to you back. Dr. Shiraz, whatever is the situation, from Saturday onwards, we are going to ease down the lockdown, and governments are saying that we will follow these SOPs. The tradition we have got
You
this
can't
country,
follow this. You
the
can't follow
tradition
the
we have
SOP.
got this country is not following these SOPs, right?
Yes.
What to do? Do you think we have any magic wand to ease out the lockdown and try that people should not be dying?
In my opinion, honestly speaking, let me first take you to some data that I've collected. Like this is why government has been planning to do this. You can see the developed country, let alone talking about the emerging economies. So the countries like the US, the UK, the Canada, the China, Germany, Japan, Italy, the economic growth is negative. The industrial production is negative. So in the US, 30 million people have applied for like unemployment benefits. So we can see that the extent of the impact of this COVID-19. So this easing down is basically trying to find out a balance between the health crisis and the economic consequences that might be inflicted on our economy. So still, I would second Jamil Saab and Shahzad Jilani Saab that being a country where one third of the economy is informal, the government does not have the data, and especially when 70% of the labor force is informal, is working in the informal sector. So you can see that we even don't know the data, the extent of this, the miseries that might be inflicted on the people, on the public. At least we know that 30 million people have applied for the unemployment benefits in the US. So if even the government does not have the data to know that how many people, what percentage of the public is poor, who are the really the deserving people in an age, in a century which belongs to the big data. 21st century belongs to a country that has expertise over data, that has the capacity to collect data, that has expertise to understand data, to interpret it, and then build policies over that. So unfortunately, our country is far, far behind in terms of, when it comes to data efficiency. We are very far behind. So even when it comes to easing the lockdown, our health infrastructure is far more poorer than the advanced economies, emerging economies. Even our comparing to India, we are far behind. Our efforts are very lacking towards it. To me, easing the lockdown is just going towards a destruction. To me, because once people we don't have civilization only comes when you have the economic resources. So when people, I have seen people selling the fruit on the same street where the terrorist suicide attack took place just one day before. So the hunger knows no civilization. So when people will go out, the kind of population that we have, the kind of the education we have, so we are in a kind of this time is different syndrome. Reinhardt and Rogoff, the Harvard economists, political economists, they write that they take the data of like 180 years, and they study that what was the behavior of the policymakers before the crisis. There are so many few crises that have hit the world economy, especially the Great Depression, 1929 to 1933. The third world debt crisis in 1980s, 2007, 8 global downturn, economic downturn. So all the policymakers were victim of this time is different syndrome. So what is this? This is basically when policymakers start believing that they are far more advanced and they are far more educated, they are far more scientific, and they are far more aware of the situation, and the crisis would not hit us because we are far ahead of the previous nations, previous generations. So and this is exactly when the crisis hits you. So to me, we are again fallen victim to this time is different syndrome, and God forbid. I live in Khairpur. I've come to know about the cases in Pir God, which is very nearer to my city, which is basically. So I can see that the kind of poverty that we have. Definitely, the government is trying to find a balance between the health crisis and the economic consequences. But again, I think they should have rather enforced the lockdown effectively when they started it, but their capacity does not seem to be that effective, honestly speaking. So on this easing of lockdown will yes, yes.
You talked about that syndrome, Shahzad, Shah Jilani. Last comment that Pakistan is hit by that syndrome that Dr. Sheraz is talking about, and I don't know this syndrome. Maybe writing a recipe for a disaster. Some people are fearing about it.
I think what Dr. Sheraz has enlightened us with that data and with that theory and with the concept of that syndrome. This is what we have all along been discussing, Madhur Saab, in our programs and different various aspects of it. And this is something he put it in words very rightly, that he elaborated and explained it. The thing is, what are people pleading? What are these health associations requesting or expecting the government to do? Just continue with the same pattern, even like make it really hard, make it really rigorous for another 4 weeks, so that we can ascertain and we can assess how about the spread, about the trajectory, and then we will be in a position to manage more efficiently and more effectively. So this is what everyone was requesting. These 4 weeks wouldn't have really made any huge difference. Believe you me, it like we sustained all these times, like past 6 to 7 weeks, we would have really sailed through this difficult time, turbulent time, and by the time these 4 weeks would have gone by past, we would have been in a better position to have the data, to have the remedy, to have the treatment, to have whatever backup plan we need. At current time, at this time, if we are not catering to that side and we are just focusing on the economic side, then I think this is my own calculation or my prediction. I think probably the government will backtrack on this decision, and probably in a week's time, we will again see the government calling for the lockdown. This is my personal opinion. We are not
with
far away from that time.
That's
with
very important.
much more damages.
Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan, one last comment, very briefly, and people are talking about what Shahzad Shah Jilani just is viewing in this program now, and people are saying choice was very clear. There were no second opinion on that. We would have gone to a strict lockdown and then waited for the curve to come down, and then we were supposed to ease out the lockdown. Do you think in the next few weeks, when we will be seeing that spike and we'll be forced to go for the curfew-like lockdown?
Even if you do that at that time, it won't be controlled. So my point is, yes, you'll have a double jeopardy. Economically, you will be devastated, and health-wise, you will find people falling on the roadsides. If the way things are opening up. That's why I said there was. If we retrospectively, if we look into it, yes, initial 8 weeks, if we had done curfew-like lockdown, we would have sustained, and then we would have really been able to manage our infrastructure, hospital, and all other infrastructure would have been able to manage. Now, this time, once it's going to emerge, it's going to emerge manifold, and it will be uncontrollable, scientifically speaking, not politically. It will be uncontrolled given the circumstances where we stand today.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan, Shahzad, Shah Jilani, Dr. Sheraz, and friends. You heard all three persons in a panelist, and hopefully, day after tomorrow, we'll again be in this live stream and try to touch upon quite a few new things and new issues in front of you. And I hope, and of course, Jamil Saab and two other my friends would be hoping that something good would be coming from some center minds and center circles in the corridors of power. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.